Hello, welcome. I'm glad that you're with us. We're going to continue our reading here, but as far as Ezekiel is concerned, we're in the home stretch. We're getting very close to finishing the book of Ezekiel. Now, the balance of the book of Ezekiel, I believe we've got about 8 chapters to go, is basically a vision of restoration. Today and tomorrow, we're going to take a tour of the new temple, which culminates in the return of the glory of God. Then in the last 2 days in Ezekiel, we're going to read of the regulation for Israel's renewed worship life. We're going to read of a river that flows from the temple and brings life to the world. Maybe reminds you a bit of Revelation and the river flowing from the throne of God. And we will conclude with a division of the land among all the tribes, with equal access for everyone in the new city and the new temple. So there's some interesting things going on there. The question really becomes, how are we supposed to read this? I mean, should we be expecting a literal fulfillment where the temple, as Ezekiel specifies it, is rebuilt in Jerusalem and Israel once again occupies the land in a future millennial kingdom with animal sacrifices and everything else restored? Or should we read this as a metaphor for the present Christian church on earth? Or maybe we should read this as a prediction, a vision of the new creation and God's presence among his people in that new heaven and new earth, where the details of worship and sacrifices that we're going to read are symbolic and point us to the centrality of the worship of God. Or should we read this and see both literal and symbolic elements, where the vision describes future realities that can't be fully expressed in the terms of Ezekiel's current realities? The answer to this is not simple at all. Most commentaries agree that these are some of the most difficult passages in all of Scripture to interpret. As Scripture interprets Scripture, we do well to read these chapters with Revelation 21, with the chapters of Revelation 21 and 22 in mind. Actually, you might even want to go and read Revelation 21 and 22 to quickly refresh your memory before you get into this. Um, and since all Scripture points to Christ in the person of Jesus, we also do well to read this Christologically. In other words, to read this as speaking about Jesus in some way. The glory of God is shown to us most fully in Jesus, who is sacrificed for our sake. Um, you might also want to remember that this is a vision, that it's intended to communicate a message. There's actually no evidence that Ezekiel's contemporaries ever saw this as a literal plan for rebuilding the temple. After all, how are you going to build the supernatural river that flows out of this temple that Ezekiel describes? So it's a very complex piece. And as such, I don't really have specific comments on the text itself. I invite you to read what it says, and as you do, remember the detail with which God commanded the tabernacle. Remember the detail that God gave Moses on the tabernacle that was to be built, and marvel how we have a God who pays such great attention to us and takes so seriously His promise to be among us. I think that if you read that with those thoughts in mind and don't get lost in all the detail, that you will be strengthened by that. Again, um, thank you for spending time with us. I pray that our time together is helpful, especially when we get into passages like this. May God be with you and bless you. I look forward to gathering with you again the next time.